I assume most people are tuning in where it's afternoon or evening. Anybody where it's still morning, good morning. I'm Phil Rubin from Gray Space Matters. Welcome to our, what is today, the October 26th edition of the Loyalty Summit CXM live stream. And I am really fortunate to be here with my good friends, Marc Berman from the Mallet Group and Emil Sarkissian from Loyalty Methods. We are going to just talk a little bit about what we're planning to do and what we're excited about in the Loyalty Summit CXM that's happening in Los Angeles at the Beverly Hilton in about 3 weeks, November 15th and 16th. And just to quickly introduce myself, I have been working in around the loyalty space for the better part of 32, 33 years, a long time. Still energized by it and really excited. Today I run a little company called Gray Space Matters. I've been fortunate enough in my previous life with our dialogue to work with some of the world's leading brands. And enough about me. Let me introduce two people that I love and respect in this industry and consider really good friends. So I'm super excited to have them here. Marc, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell them a little bit about the Mallet Group and your beginnings as a psychologist before getting into this business.
Okay, well, thank you, Phil. Nice introduction. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I'm Marc Berman, one of the founders of the Mallet Group. We're a 26-year-old loyalty, relationship, marketing, and payments consultancy, a boutique agency. And we affectionately are in TMG 3.0, having 3 iterations. My original partner, Joe Mamana, who came out of the airline industry, retired about 8 years ago, and gone through 2 more iterations. And currently, my partners, Lars Holmquist and Steve Sickle, we are consulting to companies with loyalty programs, bringing co-brand credit cards to market, working with large brands. And that's our history, really. We've been a small company that has worked with very, very large brands. And if you go to our website, malletgroup.com, 2 L's and 2 T's in Mallet, you'll see those brands. But I actually started, and to this day, still a psychotherapist, social worker by training, and maintain a small, and always have a small private clinical practice, now telehealth. But psychology and loyalty marketing and how to place, how to engage customers and how to motivate them comes from a psychology viewpoint. Obviously, when you're doing a therapist, you're not telling people what to do. But us as marketers certainly try and tell people what to do and make them call to action. So anyway, it's a pleasure to be here and look forward to seeing you at the conference, as well as being totally engaged with this process. So thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Marc. This is we could transition this whole thing to like group psychotherapy live stream.
Perhaps
create a new reality show, but maybe we should hold off.
Well, we'd need your healthcare number for that.
As the son of a psychiatrist and psychoanalyst, well, let's just stop there. So, Emil, I was thinking about this earlier today. You and I have known each other, I don't know, like 10, 15 years at least.
At least, yeah, I think. More like,
and well, we'll get into a couple things. I was thinking about some of our earliest conversations, but please introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about Loyalty Methods, because you guys are the best kept secret in the industry, which we're hoping to change with this event.
Yes. Well, first of all, thanks for the great introduction, and really happy to be here, and to also looking very much forward to the conference. So my name is Emil Sarkissian, and I'm the CEO of Loyalty Methods, and this is a 16-year-old company that started off as a service loyalty implementer. So we used to implement technology platforms, and later on in life, we sort of transitioned into building our own SaaS product called Reactor CX, and that's currently our main line of business. Reactor CX is a loyalty engagement platform built with the intent to provide a very good tool set to very large organizations to run fairly rich and complex loyalty programs that go well beyond just transactional loyalty. So some of the biggest brands that we work with are 7-Eleven, MGM Resorts more recently. We have British Petroleum and a few other engagements that are really sort of, as you can see, cross-industry and very interesting to sort of see all the different ways that loyalty manifests itself and is used as a strategic asset into those industries. So we're excited about the space. We think it when we started back in 2006-07, loyalty was just an airline thing and more like a travel thing. And suddenly now I think it's become this, especially with the data privacy laws, it's become a big sort of multi-industry sort of phenomenon. And I think we are very excited to be in this space. We think there's a lot of potential here. Anyway, that's my background. Hopefully that made sense.
Absolutely. And I think just to pick up on something you said and just to sort of start the conversation, and I'll acknowledge my dog who barked a few minutes ago, my love dog, Remy. Today's his 15th birthday. So
wow.
He gets a pass and he just wanted to say hello to everybody.
Oh, that's good.
Anyway.
Senior citizen. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
To quote the late, great Lauren Green, that's 105 to you and me, a 15-year-old dog. Emil, you talked about how excited you are, and I think we all sort of share that enthusiasm, and it ties directly into what we're trying to do with this conference, right? Which is create something that we're all going to be excited to participate in and excited to bring to the attendees through the speakers that we have, through the agenda that we have, and through the great partners that we have that are supporting us. This whole prioritization, the shift from secondary data to primary zero and first party data, the demise of cookies, is one of the big catalysts for, in my mind, what I've been talking about for the last little while is the notion that loyalty's stuck, right? And you referenced going beyond transactional loyalty, which is something we've been talking about for a long time, but still seems to be sort of not reserved, but really embraced by more of the leaders versus the laggards. But that really points to the theme of this event, which is that if loyalty is unstuck, what's going to get it? If loyalty is stuck, what's going to get it unstuck, and what's going to create this renaissance for this type of work and this type of opportunity for enterprises as well as like SMBs to drive their business, leveraging customer relationships and the data that those relationships throw off, right? And we're seeing that a lot more. And why don't I start with you, because you've been part of launching some new things that really do. One of the other levers for getting loyalty unstuck is making it a business strategy and really an enterprise strategy, not just a marketing program and marketing tactic, or even just a marketing strategy. So maybe you can share a little bit of what you're seeing out there and what you've been asked to do by some of your clients and partners.
Sure. I think so. And again, this is a broad topic, I think, as how loyalty really is not a perk anymore. It's just a perk. It's really a strategic asset. And we've spoken to a few executives that sort of emphasize that to us as we start late engagement. Let's say we would see a lot of the sort of the desire to change this from something you sprinkle on top of your business, like a seasoning, to something that's baked in and actually works together with the strategy of the business itself. And so that actually has a dual impact. It resonates with customers better because the loyalty program is not just another points program that, oh yeah, I've got this one too, and 100 other ones like it. It's actually becomes a little more, when it becomes experiential and non-transactional, a little bit more interesting in ways that are specific to the business and tie in with the strategic direction of the business. As I said, it has two impacts. It resonates better with customers because it makes sense to them within the context of that business, but it also drives business results. And so I think a lot of the forward-thinking C-level executives and some of the VPs and so on that we speak with many times emphasize that linkage and that congruence that has to happen, and that's when you kind of get the dual benefit, is that consumers appreciate it, but so do the business results get driven forward by that. And I think, from my perspective, this conference is hitting one of the tracks is hitting this very well, and I'm looking forward to some of the speakers that we're going to see there about how to elevate how to make loyalty programs visible and sort of encompassing in such a way that the C-level suite actually understands them and integrates and drives, because at the end of the day, they're responsible for setting strategy. And so if loyalty is not part of that consideration, it becomes an afterthought, and that then damages a lot of the possibilities that could, it reduces the possibilities going forward.
Yeah, I think, I talked a little bit about this on the live stream we did the other day with Allison and Len from Honda and Kairos Insights, respectively. Loyalty being prioritized means it gets managed, it gets measured, it gets employed, and it actually makes it a lot easier, I think. And Marc, I'll turn this over to you in a second, because I have a specific question for you, or a specific area I'd love you to address. But it seems like, and we've all worked in the airline space, right? And the airlines do this really better than anybody in terms of using their frequent flyer program and elite status and customer value as the arbiter of how to operate and deliver the experience for passengers, right? How do you board planes? How do you load and unload bags? How do you decide who gets upgraded? How do you decide who gets into the lounge, right? And there are all these variables that become a framework to manage the business and govern decision-making, both strategically and tactically. And then when you think about the value of payments, which of course that also came out of the airline industry, especially after American Express did triple miles back during, in 88, maybe 86.
I think it was a little before that. Yeah.
So yeah, sometime back in the 80s. Right. I was still in college then. But Marc, you work squarely at the intersection of loyalty and payments.
Correct.
And maybe you can speak to that a little bit, and maybe sort of share a little bit about what you can in terms of some of the work and some of the clients and how they're leveraging that for loyalty, for customer experience, but really to help drive the enterprise growth.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. Just for reference, so the first loyalty program I've taught, done some lectures on this, was actually the old S&H Green Stamps program back in 1898. And that launched. But truly, the first marketing program in travel was 1981, when Advantage launched, and United launched 3 weeks later. And it was off to the races. And loyalty programs are, in my opinion, the most successful marketing tool that was ever invented to this day. And now you see it every pizza shop, everybody has them. And sometimes, you think, sometimes when I get at the dry cleaner, do you want to join our loyalty program? I said, I really don't believe in loyalty programs. Somehow that makes me feel good to say that. But I think the intersection of, obviously, credit cards and payments and loyalty are inextricably tied at this point in time. They're huge generators of revenue. Sometimes the co-brand credit cards are more valuable than the underlying business that they support. And that has been discussed many times, both in the press and at conferences. And I see, and this is something I'm going to try and hit on at the conference, is I think there's a lot of new opportunities that, if they're focused on, can help credit cards proliferate even more than they are through AI, through different platforms that are being brought to market. And it's really interesting to me to see that some of the old complaints are still in place, like, oh, if we can only personalize, I spoke at a conference about 20 years ago about the 360-degree view of the customer, and where did that go? And it's year after year, it's always the same complaint. Now, whether AI or not will change that, I don't know, but I think that may make it more personal, more targeted, and better suited to make credit card offers and card-linked offers available to consumers. That being said, there is a potential killer out here in Congress that we've heard about, is the Credit Card Act that Durbin is forwarding and has some support. And I just read an article. I was doing a little thinking about what I was going to say right before this. I just read an article that Durbin said, well, they decreased interchange in the UK and the EU to 30 bips, and they still have credit cards with loyalty points, et cetera, et cetera. Well, actually, he's wrong. And I'll tell you from my own personal experience, I worked with Emirates Airlines some years ago, and we brought their UK co-brand to market. And it was a rich value proposition, as rich as we could get it. And that was sort of bridging a cultural gap between the airline and the credit card industry, and bringing a co-brand credit card into the UK. But it was prospering. And then they reduced it to 30 bips. And guess what? All the cards have been withdrawn, and we've seen one after the other. Amex is still able to issue, and Virgin is still able, because they're able to do it themselves through Virgin. But that being said, if Durbin Congress gets its way, I think we're going to have to look at co-branded credit cards more as a marketing tool rather than a rewards tool. And that will be a fundamental change in co-branded credit cards. So I don't know if I answered your question, Phil, but that's my view.
No, it's an interesting view. And as I'm sitting here listening to it, I'm thinking about, over the years, the at the risk of sounding like grumpy old men here, but the notion, I mean, what this act could conceivably do is effectively very much the same as another policy question that's lingered over the years. Is not that we want to spend a lot of time on this, but I'll just share the thought because it popped into my head. It's effectively a tax on loyalty currencies, right? Because it's just another way of eroding their value. And there's enough value degradation in loyalty currencies without these things. With these things, it does become a huge issue. So we'll make sure that we remind people in LA, especially the industry people, this is important stuff, and it is important to weigh in and bring it up to legislators.
Well, here's my one hope, that if it gets to the floor in Congress, which it may or may not, it didn't the last time they tried it. These members of Congress all have frequent flyer accounts, and do they want to see them, the credit cards not be able to earn? So there may be some, self-serving interest in there. So hopefully people say, nah, this is a bad idea, and goodbye.
As a new resident of Washington, D.C., I can not only appreciate that, but I can also appreciate the fact that they regulate the slots at National.
Yeah, right. That's true.
But anyway, not to spend too much time in the airline rabbit hole, but it is interesting, and it is worth talking about, because we've referenced the value contributor that payments and credit cards are, and you naturally think about American and Citi, because that was the first $1 billion relationship in this space. You now think, look at Delta and American Express, right, and what that is, the multi-billion dollars a year that is worth, and some of the changes going on. It is sort of reflecting a shift, I think, and an opportunity for a lot of brands to come out and sort of make decisions and decide whether they lead or follow and what those implications are, because Delta's always been a leader, and here they are making these changes and nobody's following them to make the changes, which is really interesting. But we're seeing that across some other areas too, which I think goes back to the fact that loyalty is stuck for a lot of these companies. They've either miscalibrated the richness and at the same time the profit contribution of what they're doing, or they're not measuring them appropriately. But also speaks to it's why things need to be thought of differently, and especially bringing in I'll tie this back to the enterprise opportunity and the enterprise strategy opportunity. At the end of the day, it's not just about the transactional value, it's about the better experience that's delivered for customers. And that's what gets so difficult, right? You have this compartmentalization of, you've got the credit card experience over here, you've got whether it's in-store, in-flight, on-property type of experience, and then you've got you're away from it all and you're just getting, crap sent to your inbox, or notifications or in-app notifications, and it doesn't tie together. And some of that is, bad strategy, bad leadership. Some of that is bad technology or legacy technology out there. So maybe let's shift back to you, Emil, because you guys, you live in that world.
Yeah.
And you don't sleep in that world very often.
Occasionally, yeah. No, but I think there's a real, I mean, I can tell you that we really do appreciate how things, every time we go to, usually a lot of our work is replatforming a legacy platform. So we bring Reactive CX to replace either a homegrown or something else, but in the end, usually it's probably like pretty old, like over 10 years old, or so on average. And what we find is that what's happened to these, and we're trying to build strategy going forward, that this doesn't necessarily become the same way with us. So what happens is that things get built piecemeal and just get added on and tacked on until it becomes this unmanageable, very difficult to understand landscape of offers, and this department is doing that offer, and that's doing, everyone's doing something, and it becomes this hodgepodge of discounts and experiences, and let me send you an email, but I want to get this out. And so suddenly there's just not a lot of, over time it sort of starts to spread out and become this, increasing level of entropy in this case, that you sort of see this disorder happening. And it's I think, again, it goes back to our first point that we were talking about, that without strong executive buy-in in championing the program at a high level, and then really paying attention to how this strategy that you're crafting along with the loyalty program, which should exist to begin with, is also then translates into execution with the right technology tools, with the right investments to make in customer service, in all the different channels to get that consistency that, we talk about experiences. I mean, it's very much like a human to human connection, human to brand. I mean, people ascribe human attributes to everything they deal with. And so the brands are no different. And I think, if somebody was inconsistent or like didn't pay attention to what you're doing and then periodically sort of shouted at you random messages, and you think they're crazy. So I think that's what's really, or if they're being very, very superficial and not very, come across as not genuine and not authentic. I mean, and again, that stuff cannot really happen by sprinkling on some kind of, let's just put some quick tools here and everything will be hunky-dory, get this platform, get that platform, put it together. It's really more than just getting the tech. It's a lot more about the high level and then translating that to execution and then corresponding investment in the right tech.
And one of the things I'm very excited about the conference is that there are going to be brands there, C-level folks, that are hopefully going to speak about how they see loyalty, how they see engagement, and more importantly, how they see affinity to their brand. I know one of our clients will be speaking, Margaritaville, and Claudia Infante, who's Chief Data Officer. And she created Margaritaville Perks. And Margaritaville is a fascinating company. The passing of Jimmy Buffett aside right now, but it has grown on its own. And they're really into affinity, about engaging people and being able to give them value and part of a community. And I think that that's what really builds loyalty. Channel 24 on Sirius XM, which is a Margaritaville channel, has 9 million listeners a week. That's huge. So anyway, I'm very excited to hear these folks and to hear how they envision loyalty going forward. I think I preempted your question, Phil, but you prepared me for it.
Well, no, I'm excited to hear Claudia too. I think just having spoken with her a little bit, she's going to be outstanding. I want to pick up on one thing you said about, about Margaritaville and what that represents and Jimmy Buffett's legacy now, but the fandom that he's created. So I want to also plug, there's one of the other tracks. I didn't mention the tracks at the beginning. The first track is loyalty as a business and moving loyalty into the C-suite. The second track is really the art of loyalty, which is really about the brand connection. And two things I want to mention there, because we were just talking about it. And I actually thought this is where you were going to go, Marc, but you didn't. We talk about loyalty, and loyalty is really an emotional state, right? It's not a program. It's a willingness to pay a premium, to go out of your way to do business with somebody, but it's no different than loyal. The human attributes and the psychological drivers that connect us to other people that we care about are reflective, at least in all the research that we had done, that we did at our dialogue and even at Bond, while I was there. It really is. These are attributes that we ascribe to brands because brands occupy a true brand occupies an emotional state. But what drives it are the same things, but it's not just me paying money to you to make you loyal to me. That's sort of bond, that's like prostitution, and transactional loyalty falls out on that. So that's one area that I think is going to be a really phenomenal track. When you mention the 9 million people that listen to Margaritaville, Matt Garrett, who was my partner in building our dialogue, he's going to lead a session under that Art of Loyalty track with some folks that are going to talk about this notion of fandom, and what that represents, and sort of both the tribalism, but also the community that builds, and the power that resides in there. Because what happens when somebody's actually loyal? They pay more, not less. So why are we always, making loyalty about free stuff and discounts when there's science and validity to higher yield, higher margins, higher profit, and higher enterprise value, which is also one of the things that Pete Fader is going to talk about in terms of both his work at Wharton and the work that they do at Theta. And we're going to have an investment banker from Goldman Sachs in that session too, literally talking about the unlock in terms of enterprise value, both from credit card portfolios, but also from loyalty and those loyalty currencies and some of those transactions. All right, so Marc, you're excited about Claudia.
No, actually, I'm more excited about you, Phil, because you told me to say that.
Now I've totally lost my. So Emil, let's quickly move on.
Sure.
Emil, present company excluded. Who are you excited about hearing speak?
Well, just out of first of all, let's start at the track level. And I think I'm kind of really interested in the art of loyalty, because again, as a technologist, I see a lot of the tech side of things, but I'm kind of interested in the conceptual things that will happen there. And I'm kind of interested to hear from Ted Silverman about the Barbie factor, and how great brand can turbocharge loyalty. That's an interesting sounding session. And he sounds like an accomplished. I don't know him personally, but the other one that I was interested in also is the roundtable, where a common friend of ours, Matt Garrett, is going to be along with some other folks. That sounds pretty interesting. And again, I love those discussions, because some things only come out when you sort of have a, like we're chatting right now, a real discussion about things. And I look forward to kind of gleaning something from these discussions beyond the obvious, and kind of starting to think differently about things. That's really what excites me about these opportunities.
That's fabulous. Guys, I think we're at 29:58, so we've got to wrap, but thanks so much for doing this. This was a lot of fun. Marc, I really owe you one now.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. Yeah, pleasure to be here.
All right, guys. I'll see you in a few weeks in LA.
Take care.
See you in LA. All right.
In LA.
Bye.
And I assume we're